Hello gamers, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be breaking down how I build my guns and how you should build your guns. It is the #1 thing I'm asked about in my channel, and everybody wants to know how this system works because calibrating guns and building your own and spending a lot can be very daunting. Hopefully I'm here and I'm going to break it down simply for you. Let's get into the basics. So first I just want to go over everything that's extremely basic that people need to know about the Gunsmith system and using other people's builds in Delta Force. First things first, when you go to the Gunsmith, this is the best way to test builds. Go to the Gunsmith, pick which gun you want to use, and then from here you can actually build entire guns. If you hit preview, you can then add whatever attachments you want and then go to the firing range directly. You don't have to actually spend money to try guns. That's a big thing people don't know about. So if I put on some random build, I don't actually have to spend the money and own this gun to test the gun in the range. Tip number 2, when picking the gun, the loadout section is your best friend. When you build something here, you're going to want to hit loadouts and then save and then pick any slot. And then in the same sense, you can also share these loadouts with your friends. If you go to loadout management and then hit the copy button, they recently added this whole screen in season 9. You're able to now delete builds and also copy whatever you want and send to your friends. Now when you get a code, when you enter the Gunsmith screen, now it will automatically allow you to import it, and then you can save this again, or you can then take the code and go to import loadout and paste it here, hit the search, hit apply, and now you have this build selected. When you go to my builds website, if you grab a code, go in game, pick the gun, loadouts, and then go to loadout management, import the code, and you can use my gun and test it without having to spend. Once you do this and you like the gun, if you leave the firing range, you then have the option to purchase it and it tells you exactly how much it cost. That's the basics of using the Gunsmith page. Okay, so now that you understand the basics of the Gunsmith, I want to talk specifically about attachments. Some of the key attachments I would try to have kind of incorporated with every build, unless we're talking about special builds or budget builds. The first thing is the laser. A lot of people don't really understand how the lasers work in this game. The reason why a laser is a must-have is because when it is on, you get a massive handling, accuracy, and tack holding stance boost. So what this means is when the laser's on, you have a faster ADS speed, you move faster with the gun, your hip fire is better, and it allows for another aiming type with tack stance. Now the downside of this is it's visible to enemies. People always ask, can't they see your laser? Yes, they can, but it's very hard to see sometimes, especially when it's like, you know, in the heat of the moment in a gunfight. But if you are holding an angle, just turn it off. There's a bind that you can have to turn on all of your tactical devices. It's no big deal, but absolutely always have a laser on your build. It'll make a world of difference. For 20k, your gun will feel completely different. I'm asked a lot about how I build my guns and kind of how I suggest you should build them. It's going to depend on how you shoot and what type of recoil you like to control. So I'm much more comfortable controlling vertical recoil than I am horizontal or having that stability stat. A lot of times I'll actually build more into stability and into handling at the cost of more control. I don't mind pulling down more on the mouse to deal with that type of recoil and would much rather have a lot more handling with ADS speed and ADS movement speed. If you pay attention to a lot of my builds now, I have much higher strafe speed than I ever did before. I think this is just really advantageous when you're trying to kind of like jiggle and fight on like head glitches and stuff like that. You're a much harder target to hit. When building guns, you'll kind of see that I target these handling, stability a lot more. And then in my calibrations, I do way more stability and like ADS movement speed. And I use attachments like this stock that give you much higher base handling as well as much higher base ADS movement speed. Now let's break down what it looks like to actually build a gun and what all these different terms mean. When you modify a gun, you can see all of the stats here. You can see its base attributes. Each one of these things is very important to how the gun shoots. It's not a very like one gun beats all, one stat beats all. It all matters, and honestly, it's really well done in a way to where you can kind of build the gun in a way that you want to use it, and there's a lot of variability. So damage will not change unless you have a specific barrel for certain guns, but most guns have a base damage. The range will change based on muzzle and barrel attachments. The control is mostly talking about recoil. A lot of times I associate this with vertical recoil. It could mean some horizontal recoil, but for the most part it's vertical. Your handling is talking about ADS speed, how fast the gun comes up, how fast you're moving with it, with strafing speed while ADS, and your hip fire aim speed, which is when your gun pulls out to hip fire. Stability is very similar to recoil, and a lot of times I just talk about this as horizontal recoil. This is the best stat if you have your gun kind of shaking all over the place. Stability is the stat you want to go for. And then finally, accuracy is purely hip fire. The size of your crosshair when you're hip firing, that's where accuracy comes from. And then your armor penetration, this is also attached to the gun. This cannot change. A fire rate can change with some gas block attachments, but fire rate, armor pen are usually pretty consistent. Capacity is mag size, muzzle velocity can be adjusted with calibration, and then gunshot sound, just how far the gun can be heard. Pen, for the most part, you're always going to want to pay attention to. It's a very important stat, especially when you're going through the modes of easy, normal, and hard, because once you have to shoot up an armor class, so if you have a bullet type that is lower than the armor type you're fighting, armor penetration on the gun can matter a lot. That's just kind of how the base attributes and the base stats, how they work and what they look like. The next part of the gunsmith screen that can be daunting is the calibration. So when you click on calibrate, certain attachments will be able to be calibrated. I always tell people with gun builds, you almost always guaranteed want to calibrate your guns because they essentially can give you additional stats and improvement to each attachment that you would not otherwise get. Now, when you copy and save builds, their calibrations will also be saved. So this is worth checking out if you import and use other people's builds. Now, this is going to be something that's, again, completely preferential, but I would always check this when building. It's always going to basically show the affected stats on the left here. So your top slider will be showing one stat. It will increase one thing and decrease another. Based on how you are trying to use the gun, you should calibrate it. So for this gun, I want to have higher muzzle velocity, I want it to shoot farther, and I want more ADS movement speed as I strafe side to side, and I lose stability and ADS speed with it. So each attachment will have these exact type of things. The weight and thickness will change for each attachment based on the calibration. Each attachment can have different calibration stats. They're not always going to be the same as well. The last really important attachments I want to go over that a lot of people don't understand are the camera stability attachments. So what I mean by this is there are specific muzzle attachments and foregrip attachments in the game that will not only give you recoil and stability stats, but they will actually give you less camera shake when shooting your gun. So for the foregrips, it is the Secret Order bevel foregrip. This is for horizontal control and firing camera stability horizontally. If you have problems with your gun shaking left to right, or it's just kind of hard to see in the picture, this foregrip is a must, as well as the resonant ergonomic grip, which this does the exact same thing, but for vertical recoil. So if you're starting to struggle with one of these, try these grips. It almost always instantly makes a world of difference. And then you can also calibrate these grips. And then for the muzzle, you have the multi-caliber suppressor doing this for the horizontal. And then you have double port muzzle doing this for horizontal. This is just firing camera in general. So this is kind of both of them. The vertical compensator is for the vertical camera stability. And then finally, the horizontal compensator does this as well for horizontal specific camera stability. So almost all of my builds, if you go through, will have one of these compensator or suppressors or foregrips on them. Sometimes I'll use other grips like this one for more handling, or sometimes a combat grip for a mixture of vertical and horizontal. But the camera stability is so important when shooting that I almost always will have this type of muzzle or grip on the gun. So definitely test these out when you're next building your gun. The next must-have attachment specifically on red dot or reflex builds is the risers. A lot of times people will just put a red dot on the gun and call it fine. However, when using these, sometimes the picture can be kind of ruined near your front sight or with other attachments, and it sometimes can like ruin how clean it looks through the red dot, but also you're missing out on bonuses. When attaching a red dot, go to the optic and always try to put on the multi-purpose tactical riser first. This will actually give you a tactical device slot, which could result in another patch, which can give you more stats on the gun. These will always give you handling as well. Install the riser, install an additional riser if you want more stability or more handling, and then finally, whatever red dot you want. And then this now gives you the tactical device slot where you can then place the laser, and you have a very clear picture and you have additional stability and handling now when using your weapon. Now, finally, I kind of want to put it all together. A lot of times I start with a blank gun, and usually the barrels are kind of the first thing you need to look for. Again, really important to look at the effects and stuff like that. Both barrels will actually give firing damage and additional firing damage. This one is a short barrel though, has less range, whereas this one has more range, but you lose handling accuracy. I like shooting MK4 a bit longer range, so definitely going to use the Ember barrel. Almost always will immediately put my flashlight and laser sight on because those go on like all my builds, like I said. Immediately put those on. Muzzle and foregrip are kind of going to depend on basically how once the rest of the gun comes out, if I'm liking the vertical or the horizontal more, and kind of how I want to adjust that. Mag, I like the 40 on the MK. Always just put mag assist for higher handling. Rear grip, we're going to wait on stock. I've really been liking this enhanced stock. It just gives you that base ADS ADS movement speed, and it's kind of just like good all around, and it's minus accuracy, which is great because again, I don't build any accuracy right now. Optic, this is definitely going to be a red dot build. I'll put my risers on. I want more handling on this. I like the frameless a lot right now, and the price is pretty good on it as well. Muzzle, let's try suppressor here first, because the suppressor actually gives more range as well, versus the compensators will have similar stats, but you will lose range, but you could potentially gain more handling. We'll try this. Foregrip, I think it's vertical. If I remember, the MK has a lot of initial kick. I'll kind of just test where the gun's at right now. Yeah, so you see this initial kick is ridiculous. It's still way too much. And this is before calibrating the gun as well. But I know I'm gonna need more vertical. This gives some. I'd like to do this rear grip, but this thing is so ridiculously expensive. I kind of want to see the cost difference on this. So we lose a lot of handling, but this would give us tons of stability and control. I want to try this one. And then let's just add some patches here. We're gonna get some handling back that we just lost. Okay, let's do some calibrations now. I think I'm gonna try ADS movement speed here, muzzle velocity for longer range. Do more ADS movement speed. We'll build control there. More control. Stability while moving. More control. I don't really care about aiming stability while breathing. I'm not going to be holding a lot of angles for a long time with this type of build. And then more stability. So this is looking near complete here. You can add another patch there. Let's see where we're at. ADS speed's a little slow. The initial kick's a lot easier to control. ADS movement actually feels pretty good as well. This gun in general is just hard to get good control, or sorry, handling with. I actually might go try a 30 round. Let's see if this makes much of a difference. This gun hits really hard. You don't always need that many bullets. Honestly, let's try without suppressor. Try to get more handling back. Which gives more handling? Oh, this gives way more. Let's try this. We lose a little control though. Feels pretty damn good. MK in general is just so hard to control that initial recoil, but this thing is a destroyer. It hits so hard and has such a high pen. Yeah, I think I'm gonna try this build next time we play. And now I'll save it. We've been using this thing for a bit, but we're gonna try. Well, gamers, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I'm going to be pumping out a lot more educational content, I hope, in the next couple weeks here. And then going into season 10, there's gonna be a ton of new educational content coming out, especially with the new map I'm really excited for. Do remember, if you guys want to try any of my builds, I will have it linked below, but I have a build website where you can check all of my builds, all the prices, whatever I'm using. Also, if you're gonna buy any skins, exclamation point coins in the chat or the Midasbuy link in the description below. Please leave any suggestions for new content that you want coming soon. I promise by the end of season 9, I will have a new prison guide out. I know it's been long requested, but that will be coming soon. Thank you all for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. See you guys in the next one.